This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi everyone, I'm Rusty McCranie and welcome back to Meteo Mundo. Here we forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas. I hope you're having a great Tuesday. Mine has been pretty busy because, friends, we got ourselves an active weather pattern for the third week of November. Obviously, I've got all the newest information on that area of disturbed weather in the Southwest Caribbean. We'll talk about what's been happening today and how I expect it to develop over the next several days. But it's not just that. There's an area of non-tropical low pressure trying to develop in the Gulf of Mexico, and another one that's going to try and get going in the next couple of days off the east coast of Florida. And that one could bring gale force winds to a good chunk of the Bahamas. But this disturbance could also bring not only some winds, but the potential for some extremely heavy life-flooding rain through portions of the Caribbean. So again, a lot to get into. We'll do it right now. And as I do so, thank you so much for liking the video. And hey, look, if nothing else, throw a like in there for the jacket, right? All right, so let's talk about what's been happening on this Tuesday. We've had some good rain along portions of the Central American coastline from Belize all the way down towards Panama. Now, the interesting thing is it's not exactly a part of that area of disturbed weather because that really hasn't even developed yet. That's why the Hurricane Center has kind of put this X just north of Panama, but then this potential development area a little bit farther north and east because we're still a couple of days away from actual development. But it is a part of a broader disturbance, if you will, or a large area of showers and storms. But we've had some heavier rain for places like Belize City, towards Roatan, portions of the northern coastline, again, of Nicaragua and Honduras. And then we're going to continue to see some very heavy rain down towards Panama on the south side of this, a rich moisture flow towards Panama City. That's one area, I think, in Central America that could get a couple more days of some very heavy rainfall. Now, because this is during the day, we can actually take a look at the visible satellite imagery. And I got to tell you something, that is a sexy satellite loop right there. Again, gorgeous, this high resolution visible satellite. You can see the brighter whites or higher cloud tops. Again, there's nothing organized right now in the Southwest or the Northwest Caribbean, but you can see some of that heavier rain moving through the inland portions of Central America. And look, it's not just this area. If you look up at the north central Gulf of Mexico, you can clearly see that non-tropical low trying to develop there. And then eventually on Thursday, another one is going to try and spin up just off the east coast of Florida, near Grand Bahama, and that one could bring some extreme wind conditions through a lot of the Bahamas, and the combination of that one and then this eventual area of low pressure could bring a lot of a wind threat all the way down to the Turks into the Caicos. So there's a lot going on here. But again, in the short term, we'll have additional rain for portions of Central America the remainder of this Tuesday and then on Wednesday. And then this system tracks north into the east, and it's going to be our friends in Jamaica, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, and the eastern sides of Cuba that I have the highest concern for when it comes to flooding rains. And I'm talking about some potential life-threatening flooding rains there. So let's go into the models and take a look at what's happening with this disturbance. So we'll put this into motion for you here. And again, this is going to be in the next several days. The GFS model has still been fairly consistent. Again, it's slowly developing this in the open waters and then pulling it northeast over Jamaica, Hispaniola, eastern Cuba, the Turks, and to the Caicos. Now, it's come down on the wind threat, okay? The intensity of what this is going to become. It could just be a tropical depression, maybe tropical storm vents. The wind threats come down a bit. Doesn't mean we won't get some potentially damaging winds, but the biggest concern I have for these areas right now is the amount of rain that we could see. And a lot of the models are painting on some significant rain there. So let's kind of back this up and start with what's happening the rest of this Tuesday. Still, again, could see some showers from the Yucatan all the way through Central America. Eventually through the day tomorrow, this moisture pulls offshore minus places like Panama, where again, that more southerly flow could still bring you some heavier rain the next couple of days. And then as this begins to try and spin up, at least form some kind of broader area of low pressure, that's when we really start to see the rain become more concentrated in the areas I just mentioned, from Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic, through Port-au-Prince, Haiti, Kingston, Jamaica, the eastern sides of Cuba, portions of the Turks and Caicos, but I'm not as concerned with the rain up there. And we'll talk about why in a minute. And then some of that heavier rain, at least for a time, shifting towards Puerto Rico. But again, I'm not concerned about flooding rains right now for places like San Juan and Ponce. It really is Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Jamaica, in the eastern tip of Cuba that looks to have the heaviest potential for the rainfall. And it is going to be very dependent on where this tracks. Now, the center on the GFS model, it's hard to pick up here on the rain because it's so broad in nature, but it basically tracks right over Hispaniola. That's one reason why the wind threat has come down a bit, because now, instead of trying to wrap up either south of the island or west of the island, this broad center goes right over the island, and Hispaniola is an extremely mountainous island, and that kind of quickly rips apart that center of circulation. And then, as I mentioned in the last forecast video, this begins to merge with our frontal boundary and that other area of low pressure. And I think as it gets north of Hispaniola, very quickly, it becomes extratropical in nature and kind of just races off to the north and to the east. But again, starting basically on late Thursday and into Friday over the weekend, this is where we have to keep an eye out for some extreme potential for heavier rain. So how much rain are we talking about on the GFS model? Well, we're still painting on well over a foot of rain in portions of that area. Now, again, it's all going to depend on the track, because along and east of the center of circulation is where we're going to have the abundant moisture and the heaviest rainfall totals. You can see that sneaking in beginning on Friday through the weekend. So taking a look again at the GFS model and what it's showing. Now, we'll start with Jamaica. And again, just like the last time I showed you this, I don't buy the fact that the eastern side of the island might get 8 inches of rain and the western side only gets 2. It'll probably be an average of that somewhere. But at least if nothing else, the GFS is trying to keep the most abundant rain just off towards your east. Again, if the track were to shift farther west, Jamaica would be more in line for some of this more significant rainfall. It doesn't mean we couldn't see some flash flooding in Jamaica out of the rain from the GFS model. But again, that shift slightly farther off to the east now puts the bullseye more over Hispaniola, and especially the Haiti side of the island. Again, from Port-au-Prince towards the western side here, you're looking at over a foot of rain in some areas, even towards Port-au-Prince, maybe more than 10 inches of rain. And again, don't take one number, just look at the average, but look at the very significant rainfall it brings to the southern coastline of Hispaniola, even towards Santo Domingo. And then as you get towards the mountainous terrain, anything, look, you get a few inches of rain there and life-threatening mudslides become a real problem. So it is the rain for Hispaniola that I'm very concerned about, potentially Jamaica as well. Eastern sides of Cuba, again, not as much in the GFS. It'll be more in the European. I'll show you that coming up. And the same thing for the Turks and the Caicos. So again, you're really looking at some high concentration of extreme rainfall potential out of this disturbance, whether it becomes a depression or a tropical storm. The swath of available moisture is going to be absolutely abundant. Now, for other areas that could see some heavier rain, again, we'll get you back down into Central America, especially towards Panama. Again, a rich southerly wind will continue to drive in moisture well over the next couple of days, even as that disturbance moves away. So you're looking at several 4, 5, 6+ inches of rain there towards San Jose and Costa Rica, maybe a little bit more right towards the Panama border, but again, a few inches of rain there. Additional heavier rain could develop towards the coastline of Guatemala and the northern side of Honduras. A few inches more towards Belize City, but not as much. Generally speaking, for the rest of Central America, this moves away from your area as we get into our Thursday. But for tomorrow, still could see some heavier rain there. All right, let's talk about the winds. Let's look at the wind profile on the GFS. Now, if you've been watching my forecast the last couple of days, the GFS was the strongest when it came to winds. That has changed. It's now much more in line with the European model, and even the European model is a little bit stronger. The NAM model is a little bit stronger with the winds as well. And again, what's the shift? What has changed with the GFS model? It's the fact that whatever center of circulation goes right over the very mountainous island of Hispaniola, and it just rips apart that broad, low-level center, mid-level center. It just eats it away, as an island like that would, and typically does when a center moves over it. So we're not getting the strongest winds there. Now, we can still take a look at some of the winds that it is pinging on right now, but again, in a more broad way, we could have some wind gusts of over 45. And again, these are wind gusts. They're not sustained winds, but notice that it's a lot more of an elongated system now on the GFS model, on the GFS, so not truly as wrapped up. And the wind threat wouldn't be as significant for Jamaica out of this. That would be good news. Again, we'd really bullseye in on Hispaniola and some gusty winds towards Puerto Rico. And then eventually, as this pulls off north and east for the Turks into the Caicos, that's the wind threat that I'm talking about. Now, the most significant wind may be north and east of the Turks and Caicos. Look how that accelerates through, and as it does so, now we're picking up wind gusts, more of like a frontal boundary, if you will, as it heads just to the east of Bermuda, but those gusts are over 50 miles an hour. So again, the interesting thing about this disturbance, whatever it becomes, is I think it's a big wind threat north of Hispaniola, but it's a big rain threat for Hispaniola, eastern Cuba, and Jamaica. The Cayman Islands should stay far enough west where I'm not as concerned there. We can take a look at the NAM model as well, as far as the wind gusts go. And on the NAM model, it's a little bit more prevalent. That's the wrong NAM model. So let me just switch a button here. Got a lot of different models we can look at here. And look, we can deep dive into this as much as we want to. And that's one reason why more than likely we'll be doing some live videos coming up here in the next couple of days as well. So if we look at the NAM model, a couple of things. One, it's a little bit closer to Jamaica, which is why I'm not ruling anything out in Jamaica. For my friends in Jamaica, Kingston, Negril, Montego Bay, everywhere, Mandeville, Port Moore, Spanish Town, Port Antonio, Maypen, anywhere. We have to be very vigilant with this because the NAM is really close and brings stronger winds closer to the island. You can see some gusts there near 50, and that's less than 50 miles away from Kingston. So more significant wrapped up system with the NAM model as far as the wind goes. So let's move over to the Euro model here and take a look at some of the pressure tracks. So European model is going to slowly develop in the same area as the GFS and the NAM. Now, it's still fairly weak. I would like you to also note the other closed low developing that's a non-tropical low right over Grand Bahama. Gale force winds for the Bahamas out of this, and then as the two get closer to each other, gale force winds to the entire Bahamas and the Turks and the Caicos, but then this low accelerates quickly to the north and to the east. So based on the European model right now, again, closed low, southwest Caribbean, at least a tropical depression, still slow to develop. Again, that meandering nature, right? That's the heavy rain threat because this thing isn't moving very much through Friday and Saturday, but eventually as it gets towards the Turks and to the Caicos, it picks up some steam and then accelerates quickly to the north and to the east. But again, it's not strong on the European model. The interesting thing is it's still showing a decent chance of a tropical storm, 100% chance of a depression still. Tropical storm chances are what, about 30, 40, maybe 50% as you get north and east of the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos, but it still shows the potential for development of a tropical storm over Jamaica and eastern Cuba and Haiti. And again, the European model is slightly farther west, right over Jamaica, which is why I'm telling my friends in Jamaica, we can't rule anything out at this point in time. It's just so close of a shave. Cayman Islands should be far enough west where we're going to end up being okay. The other big story on the European model continues to be the rainfall potential. Again, this is a snapshot of the total rain between now and Monday morning. But if you look at this, again, I did this the same video. I didn't move this just far enough away. The maximum on this map is over 21 inches of rain, and it's right there, just offshore of Jamaica, just west of Haiti. I hope that core stays just offshore. But the European model, a very reliable model, has more than 1.5 feet of rain falling along the track of this disturbance. And that is of very grave concern to me, especially if that were to fall over the Ashu Islands. So let's talk about kind of in general what we need to be concerned about. The flooding rain threat, the flooding rain and the wind threat, but certainly the flooding rain threat for Jamaica, eastern Cuba, Haiti, and the Dominican Republic, and then the gale force winds for all of the Bahamas, Bimini, and the Turks and the Caicos. And again, the gale force winds are generally going to be coming from the other area here that we're going to be looking at. So let's switch over. Oh, first of all, before we do that, let's talk about where we are in social media. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, email. A lot of you have found us on TikTok. We had over 5,000 views in our last TikTok post. Thank you very much. If you want snippets of the forecast, you go there. In between these longer videos, we got you covered here at Meteo Mundo on all the different social media platforms. Okay, let me bring myself back on camera. Let's go back over to our weather computer. So I want to now talk about what's going to be happening in the Bahamas. Let's go back over to our satellite imagery first of all here. Again, what's going to be happening is we have this low, non-tropical trying to develop, but then a secondary one that is going to try and spin up on Thursday, basically right over Grand Bahama, and that could bring some significant winds. So let's take a look at a couple of the different models here. Let me switch over to this product, and then I want to start with the wind. So we're going to take a look at the wind in the Bahamas over the next 48 hours. That's not the wind, Rusty. Let's try this again. Wind gusts, there we go. And then over the next 48 hours. This thing is making me click a ton of buttons right now, but I'll do it for you guys, I promise. All right, so what are we talking about? I want you to look at the top of your screen. These are wind gusts in knots. As we get into late Wednesday and Thursday, we are going to see extremely significant winds developing through a lot of the Bahamas. You can almost see that twist beginning to develop just off of the east coast of Florida, where they could have some significant rain in the southeast sides of Florida. But for our friends of the Bahamas and Bimini, again, Grand Bahama and Walker's Key and places like Freeport and Marsh Harbor and Alistown, look at these winds, okay? Let's get back to that because I think this is going to be kind of unbelievable for you here. Look at some of these wind gusts. 40, 50 miles an hour. This is the HRRR model. It's a very high resolution model, okay? Wow, like that is crazy. I don't know if I buy 50 to 60, but 30 to 40 certainly looks plausible given the situation. A deepening low right over our area. Obviously, this is gonna shut down boaters. I can tell you this, I always try and pass along official information. Beginning tonight, there will be a gale force watch and an excessive rainfall watch for the Bahamas, and with all good reason, because the weather is going to go downhill in a hurry. Look at that kind of spin up near the Keys, and then this all moves up to the north and to the east, but exceptional amount of wind on the HRRR model. We switch over to the reflectivity, and guess what? There's just as much rain here as well. Here, let me make sure I've got the right model in. I do. It's just going to take a second to load up. Look at this. So you can see the twist down offshore of Island Murata and Key Largo. And again, this just nice little spin up here of this November non-tropical low. But look at the rain it's going to try and bring to places like Nassau and Arthurstown and Marsh Harbor and Spanish Town and Walker's Key and West End and High Rock. All areas that could get some significant rain out of this. So wind and rain for the Bahamas, but gale force conditions are likely all the way down to the Turks and Caicos, because again, in this same time frame, we've got our tropical system moving up. Now, eventually here, let me go back over to the GFS model because we can just take a look at a little bit longer time frame. Go back over to the winds. Eventually here, what's going to happen is the two systems are going to merge and accelerate quickly off to the north and to the east. So again, if you look at the GFS model, it spins up 40 knot winds as well, and then this takes it quickly to the north and to the east and pulls everything away, and you kind of get this elongated system. But again, there's two distinct areas that we really have to monitor, and I don't want to gloss over what's going to be happening in the Bahamas because there's going to be some significant wind there beginning on Thursday with some heavier rainfall potential as well. Speaking of the rainfall, we can go back to that HRRR model, take a look real quickly at the total precip. I'm just going to still frame this. I think it's the easiest thing to do. And again, do I buy exactly what this model is showing? Not necessarily, because I think there might be some forward speed to all of this, but over a half foot of rain in a couple of spots. This is something, along with our friends in the Caribbean, that I promise you I'll continue to monitor over the next couple of days. Okay, so let's wrap this up for now. Again, high chance of tropical development in the Southwest Caribbean. Big time rain threat for Jamaica, Hispaniola, Eastern Cuba, big time wind threat and some rain threat for all the Bahamas and the Turks and the Caicos as well. So again, thank you very much for liking the video. Thank you for subscribing. We will have another forecast update for you early on Wednesday morning. And again, we'll talk more about doing some lives as well. I'll be coming back on live, especially once we start getting an invest here, once we see how this develops, once we have a little bit better idea of the track, and we can really focus in on some of the hazards and impacts I expect, not only for, again, portions of the Caribbean, but for the Bahamas as well. But I got you covered. Again, thank you so much for liking, and if you have not subscribed, please subscribe if you want the latest updates from us at Meteo Mundo. Have a great rest of your day, friends. I promise to see you back here soon.